This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and I'm not in studio today, as you can tell. In fact, I'm in one of the coolest places on the planet. Elderly Instruments opened its doors on July 5th, 1972, and over the course of the past 52 years, they have become one of the premier places for people all across the globe to find stringed and fretted instruments, new and used and collectible. You can find a wide variety of cool instruments here, including acoustic and electric guitars, mandolins, banjos, ukuleles, and basses, just to name a few. Now, today we are honored to welcome the CEO and co-owner, a second-generation co-owner, I might add. And boy, does she have some stories to share with us today. Lillian Werbin, it's an honor to welcome you to Time Signatures. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, and thank you for being here.
Well, we're glad to have you. So listen, I've got to get something off my chest because I told you I worked in radio, okay? Back in the day, I was a weekend air personality at WFMK, and I'm going to tell on myself here, and it's going to be recorded for eternity, all right? I just wanted to be noted I was new to the area at that time, okay? And part of the thing that we did when we were on air is they would give us these little liner cards, little 10, 15-second blurb about our sponsors and advertisers. And I was reading about Elderly Instruments. And as I'm reading this, I started wondering aloud, what is Elderly Instruments? Do they sell walkers, canes, wheelchairs? Yeah.
We get that a lot.
It didn't take long for the phone to start ringing and they're going, "Hey, idiot." So that was my gotcha moment when I came to the Lansing area. So I just wanted to get that out there and share it with everybody.
We bamboozled you.
Well, and listen, preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time. I've got to share some of my stories as well.
Please.
So I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to get the ball rolling here and talk about the history of Elderly Instruments. Share some of the history with us, because you grew up here, didn't you?
I grew up in and around the business. Yeah. So my dad is one of the original owners, co-founders, along with his at the time partner Sharon, and they were just trading instruments and kind of dealing out of their little apartment. And it became a passion that they grew into this business that I now get to co-own with him, and went from a 8x10 to 36,000 square feet. And we have, 40 dedicated employees who
Nice.
kind of make all of this go round. And it's always been community focused. And
Very nice. Now I have to apologize, but I can imagine a much younger version of you running around in the store, and everybody probably knew Lillian when she was a little girl. And
yes.
talk about some of your memories of growing. Now you said you were in a little 10x12, was it?
It was an 8x10
8x10.
in East Lansing. That's
Okay.
before my time.
Okay.
I've only known it here where we are
So
right
that
now.
was the only other location was in
Yes.
East Lansing and now here.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I've only known this location.
Mhm.
But I love to hear stories from the original location, and there are people who still shop with us who were there first week we were
Wow.
open. So we're really lucky to have that kind of momentum behind us and support.
How cool is that to know that you're dealing with people 50 years later, 52 years later, and they're
It's-
still coming?
It's really nice to inherit those relationships.
Yeah.
And I say it like that because they were cultivated over time, and every single one of them really matters, So it's nice to hear those stories and get to know those people that have been with us, made it possible to be here today.
Absolutely. Now, Elderly's been in this location since 1983, correct?
Yep.
And when you started, you were in the other location for just a very short period of time?
We were in the first location from 1972 until 83.
Oh, wow. You were there 11 years.
Oh yeah, it expanded. So
Yeah.
they started in the 8x10 and then knocked some walls down
Okay, yeah.
and expanded again across the hall. So it was really that we needed more space.
Okay.
And I hear it was quite the endeavor to move, which
Oh, I can imagine.
you can imagine.
Yeah.
So we're happy to be here.
Now,
Old
it's kind of
Town.
cool. We're sitting in a room that has ukuleles, it has guitars. I see banjos over here. We could have set up literally anywhere in this building and had some really cool backdrops, but I wanted to be in an area that's used on a regular basis. And unfortunately, we're recording this when they're closed. I would have loved to have had some customers milling about. But I wanted to talk to you really quickly about this. You have a lot of members of the Capital Area Blues Society that work here. Some of our musicians, you have Frog, I believe BD worked here for a number of years.
Yeah.
Mike Smalley, and
Yeah.
of course, James.
Yeah.
What is it like having these guys around you?
Oh, it's always fun. It's never a dull moment.
I
to
just
say
gonna
the
say, never a
least.
dull moment.
But it's nice because like they have a connection with the community that I might not have. And that's kind of the magic around here is that
Yes.
every single one of us has a different connection to music in the community that is part of that music scene. And so we really are well equipped to serve musicians.
Sure.
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 And so I think those connections are really important, and I like that they exist.
Indeed. Now, your father Stan started this business all those years ago, but when did you take the reins?
It was a process. I started in management in 2018 or so.
Okay.
And that's when I started kind of making more of the decisions and kind of running the show in the back end part of things. So I'd say 2022 officially.
Okay.
It's my final answer.
So is he enjoying the retirement?
He is, and he still works sometimes. But he's still on our Slack. It's like an internal communication channel.
Sure.
He's still in there and he still works with the appraisers. And so it's nice to still have that collaboration with him and to still be collaborating from the new and the old and making sure we have a good way forward. So
now, Lillian, I want to flip the page a little bit. I remember late last year hearing the news that Elderly Instruments was chosen as America's top business, not within the top. It was the top business by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Talk about how that affected you and your team here.
It was really nice to get recognition, not just like our current team, but all of the teams that we've had over the years.
Sure.
Because it takes a lot of hard work to get to a point where you get that type of recognition. And it's almost, it's 8 months later and I'm kind of still choked up about it. Because you get to see people recognized and hard work pays off in the sense of that recognition can go a long way and it boosts your focus and your willingness to do and all that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then on the heels of that amazing news, Michigan celebrates small business, added their honor to the growing pile, selecting Elderly Instruments as one of Michigan's top 50 companies to watch. I can only imagine that must have been just beyond compared. You already had the Chamber of Commerce deal, and now this.
It's surreal. It really is surreal because you want the hard work is so that you can get recognition, and we're serving musicians all over the world.
Yes.
And for that to be recognized again is just like, it's a surreal moment, but it feels like you get to be proud of yourself. You get to be proud of your coworkers. You get to be proud of the people that you're building community with. And, it says a lot. And to be something to watch is exciting because it means that not only are we interesting now, that we will be in the future and that we have something to offer. So
now on April 5th of this year, you announced a new president here at Elderly.
Yes.
Talk about Michael for a moment.
Oh, Michael,
he's got a history here, doesn't he?
He does. He's been here about 10, 11 years now. Started in the sales department. works heading the marketing team and the IT department. And he's really compassionate and careful, considers other people with a lot of care. And I'm really lucky to have him to balance kind of some of my chaos. Being CEO is no easy feat. And so it's really good to have not only his support, but his work ethic and his ideas. The way he approaches the work is quite beautiful to watch. So I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky that he is in the seat that he's in.
You know, I have to tell you, part of what I enjoy about getting your notifications, because I get the notifications via text, which you can do too. We will make sure to put links in the information on this episode. Looking at the amazing vintage guitars that you guys have come through the doors, and you guys do such a nice job with the 360 views and detailed information.
Thank you.
I can imagine that it makes selling them a lot less hectic. How has the internet affected Elderly Instruments in the way that you do business today?
I think we were lucky to have a website earlier than some of our competitors, or a robust website, I should say. Certainly, the pandemic has caused internet to be even more important for retailers and how you do business. I think ultimately, advancements in technology have allowed us to de-hassle the staff so that they don't hate their jobs. Ideally, that's the whole point, is so that like we don't replace people, but we make it so that their lives are easier when they're doing the work. And we're pretty careful about that. So
very cool. You are watching and listening to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin. Today with me, CEO of Elderly Instruments here in Lansing, Michigan, Lillian Werbin. We are just having a wonderful discussion here about Elderly, its history, and we're going to be talking about some of the future, how things are looking in the future. But I just happen to know that you have on occasion had some pretty well-known musicians come through the doors, and even some who are well-known, but not necessarily known as musicians. Talk about that for a minute.
I hate to talk about this. It feels like I'm
well, it's got to be kind of cool, though.
Oh, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's also the kind of thing that I want to protect so that people continue to come and shop in store. Because not every professional or well-known musician wants to be well-known every moment.
Understood.
And we have an open door policy, in the sense of an open hand policy, I should say, is that pick up the instruments and play them. And you won't necessarily be bothered if you don't want to be.
Okay.
But it's really cool because it speaks again to the breadth of our community.
Sure.
We have novice musicians, professional gigging musicians, collecting musicians. It's nice.
And I respect the answer. I truly do. You know, you see Joe Bonamassa talk about Uncle Norm out there in California.
Yeah.
Has he ever contacted you about a guitar you've had for sale? Just curious.
Would I out him right now on a podcast? I'm not sure I would.
All right. That's fair. I'm trying, guys. I really am. But
you're not the first. I think there's something to be said that, like, I don't necessarily want everyone to know where I shop and what I look at and all of that. And so I'm trying to be respectful.
It would be kind of cool if one day Joe puts up a post and going, "Hey, check out this guitar I picked up at, Elderly Instruments."
We hope he does.
That would really be cool.
It would.
So during your tenure in all these different capacities, are there any elderly saves the day moments that you can share? Something maybe where a guitarist from a big band is in town and something happens to their guitar and they need a fill in, or
yeah. But that kind of happens every year. We have something like that where we're coming through. Our banjo needs fixing, and do you have anybody who can fix it right now? Or, I need this specific instrument. It didn't make it in the flight. And we're kind of, again, poised well to
Sure.
to help.
And sometimes that requires after hours work as well,
Yes,
I
it
can
does.
imagine.
Yes, it does. I've both Dad and myself have opened the store on a Sunday because people didn't know
Wow.
when we were open. Which is, if we're here, why not?
Sure.
It's about making sure that the music is continuing and that people actually have the instruments that they want and need. And so being able to serve on the fly it's an honor.
Yeah.
Not everybody's willing to do that kind of thing.
Right.
So
this episode is absolutely going to air after your 52nd anniversary, which is July 5th. But I want to be one of the first to congratulate you guys on all of your 52 unbelievably amazing years.
thank you.
Looking down the road 10, 20, even 50 years, what do you see for elderly instruments?
Honestly, much of the same. I don't have grandiose ideas of changing this business immensely. It's more that we want to navigate this new world of modern technology. We need to make sure that we're staying with a competitive edge so that people want to shop with us. And, I think between our repair shop and the way we interact with customers, we have a good shot of another 52 years.
That'd be amazing. Absolutely would be amazing. Now, as we draw this episode to a close, this is your chance to shine and tell people about everything elderly instruments. Where can we find you on the internet? Where can we find you on Facebook? What else can you share?
Elderly Instruments. You can find us at our website, our only website, www.elderly.com. We are in Old Town Lansing. Please stop by, see if we have the next instrument for you. And we, like you said, we buy, trade, sell, and consign new, used, and vintage fretted and stringed instruments worldwide. And we have 40 wonderful staff who are ready to help.
Lillian Werbin, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Time Signatures. I wish you all the best going forward, continued success. And of course, if you ever need a platform where you want to break some news, you want to share something exciting with the community, by all means, you give me a call. We'll get you on. How's that?
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. And as we close this episode of Time Signatures, I want to thank each and every one of you, our listeners, our followers, our supporters, because without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is let me try that again. Keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.
Baby, I'm home.